The last letter arrived on a Tuesday. Sophia recognized the handwriting before she even picked it up from the mat. She had memorized every curve of those letters over 3 years, the way the S curled slightly to the left, the way the T crossed too high, like the writer was always reaching for something just out of reach. Her hands were shaking. She had promised herself she wouldn't open it. She had made that promise 6 months ago, standing in the rain outside a train station, watching someone walk away without turning back. She opened it. Pause, 2 seconds. Some promises are impossible to keep. And some stories begin at their ending. This is one of them. Chapter 1, How It Started. Sophia Reyes was 28 years old when she moved to Edinburgh for work. She had left her home city of Valencia with 2 suitcases, a job offer from an architecture firm, and the quiet certainty that she needed to be somewhere new. Not running away from anything in particular. Just running towards something she couldn't name yet. The city welcomed her with gray skies and excellent coffee. She found a small flat in a neighborhood called Leith, near the water. She learned which buses to take, where the good markets were, which streets were beautiful at night and which were best avoided. She built a small, careful life. She met James at a work event in October. He was not the most handsome man in the room. He was not the loudest. He was standing near the window with a glass of wine he hadn't touched, looking out at the street below as if the party were happening somewhere he hadn't quite arrived yet. Sophia noticed him because he looked the way she felt. Longing, noun/verb. A strong feeling of wanting something or someone you cannot have. There was a longing in his eyes that she recognized immediately. Complicated, adjective. Difficult to understand or deal with, involving many different parts. Their situation was complicated from the very beginning, but neither of them wanted to admit it. Forbidden, adjective. Not allowed, something you are not permitted to have or do. She knew this feeling was forbidden, but she couldn't make it stop. They talked for 2 hours. About architecture, about cities, about the particular loneliness of living somewhere beautiful where you don't quite belong yet. He was funny in a quiet way, the kind of funny that sneaks up on you, so you find yourself laughing before you've understood the joke. At the end of the evening, he handed her his card. Just that. No invitation, no suggestion. Just the card, and a look that lasted a second too long. She waited 4 days before calling. Later, she would wonder what would have happened if she had waited 5. Chapter 2, What She Didn't Know. James Calloway was married. Not unhappily, not in the dramatic way of films where the couple barely speaks and sleeps in separate rooms. He and his wife, Claire, had been together for 9 years. They were kind to each other. They shared a house, a dog named Birch, a circle of friends, a future that had been planned in the careful way that futures get planned when 2 sensible people decide to build a life together. Sophia learned this on their 3rd meeting, not from James, but by accident, when she reached across a cafe table to look at his phone and saw the screensaver, James and a woman laughing on a beach, her head on his shoulder, both of them squinting into summer light. She said nothing. She put the phone down. She finished her coffee. She should have left then. She knew that. She knows it still. Broken heart emotional note, narrator reads slowly here. This is the moment the story turns. The pause after she knows it still should be 3 full seconds. Let the listener sit with Sophia's decision. She did not leave. And James, to his credit and his shame, did not pretend. He told her everything that afternoon, quietly, honestly, with the kind of honesty that is almost worse than lying because it removes every excuse. James, I should tell you something. Before this becomes something it shouldn't. Sophia, I already know. James, then you should go. Sophia, I know that too. She stayed. They began meeting for coffee, then for walks, then for long evenings in bookshops where neither of them bought anything. They talked about everything, their childhoods, their fears, the specific sadness of wanting a life different from the one you have. They did not touch. That was the rule they made without saying it out loud. Boundaries, noun. Limits that define what is acceptable in a relationship or situation. They had set boundaries for themselves, but both knew they were already crossing them. To suppress, verb. To stop yourself from expressing a feeling or doing something. She tried to suppress her feelings, but they grew stronger every week. Inevitable, adjective. Certain to happen, impossible to avoid. Looking back, what happened next felt inevitable, even if neither of them chose it. Chapter 3, 1 year. For 1 year, they existed in the space between what was and what wasn't. Sophia knew it was wrong. She was not the kind of person who did wrong things easily. She had always been careful, principled, someone her friends described as deeply good. That description now felt like a joke at her own expense. What she was doing was not good. She knew that every day. But she also knew, and this is the part she could never explain to anyone, not fully, that what she felt for James was the most honest thing she had ever experienced. Not because it was right, but because it was real in a way she hadn't believed feelings could be. James was pulled in two directions at once. He loved Claire. That was true. It was a quieter love, a built-over-time love, a love made of shared habits and shared history. And he felt something for Sophia that had no name that seemed adequate, a recognition, a resonance, like hearing a piece of music and understanding for the first time what music is for. He was not a bad man. That was perhaps the most painful thing about it. Learn English slowly and clearly. Listen, repeat, and feel the words. Repeat this video every day to improve your English. Chapter 4, The Accident. It was a photograph. James and Sophia had been walking along the water of Leith one Sunday afternoon in November. A friend of James's, someone he hadn't seen in years, had spotted them from across the bridge and taken a photo on his phone, thinking he would send it as a joke. "Look who I saw." The photo showed James and Sophia walking close together, his head turned toward her, her face tilted up, laughing. Nothing explicit. Nothing you could point to as evidence of anything. But Claire knew her husband's face. She knew the way he looked at people. And she knew, looking at that photograph for 3 seconds, that this was not how he looked at friends. She called him. "Claire, who is she?" James didn't answer immediately. In that silence, which lasted perhaps 4 seconds, everything was decided. "James, her name is Sophia. She's a colleague." "Claire, don't." "James, Claire." "Claire, don't lie to me, James." "Not now. Not after everything." Long pause, 3 seconds. He told her the truth. All of it. It took 2 hours. By the end, Claire was sitting on the kitchen floor with her back against the cupboards. Not crying. Just very, very still. Broken heart emotional peak, narrator slows to near whisper. This is the emotional center of the story. Read each line of Claire's silence slowly. The listener should feel the weight of what has been broken. Betrayal, noun. The feeling or act of breaking someone's trust, being disloyal. She had never known betrayal like this before, the kind that changes how you see everything. To confront, verb. To face a difficult situation or person directly and honestly. She had to confront not just James, but herself and what she was willing to accept. Devastated, adjective. Deeply shocked and upset, overwhelmed by sadness. James looked devastated when he saw what his honesty had done. Chapter 5, The Decision. That same evening, James called Sophia. She could hear it in his voice before he said a single word, the flatness, the exhaustion, the sound of someone who has walked through a door they cannot walk back through. "James, Claire knows." Sophia sat down on her kitchen floor. She didn't know why. Perhaps because it felt appropriate to be closer to the ground when something falls apart. "Sophia, is she okay?" "James, no. She is not okay." "Sophia, are you?" "James, no." There was a long silence. The kind of silence that has weight. "James, I can't do this anymore, Sophia." I mean I can't do any of it." All of it. I have to try and fix what I broke. Sophia closed her eyes. She had known this moment was coming. She had known it for months, the way you know winter is coming even in September, even when the sun is still warm. Sophia, I know. James, I'm sorry. Sophia, don't be. You chose right. She hung up. She sat on the floor for a long time. Outside, Edinburgh was doing what Edinburgh does, carrying on, indifferent to individual hearts, full of its own old beauty. Chapter 6, 6 months. 6 months passed. Sophia threw herself into her work with the particular energy of someone with nothing else to fill the evenings. She designed a community center in Leith that her colleagues called her best work yet. She ran every morning along the waterfront. She had dinner with friends. She answered messages promptly. She was, by all visible measures, fine. She was not fine. She missed him in the way you miss a part of your own understanding, not just the person, but what you understood about yourself when you were with him. She had not known, before James, that she was capable of feeling so much. She had thought herself competent, contained, practical. He had shown her another version of herself, and losing him meant losing access to that version too. She wrote him a letter in February. Not to send, just to say the things she hadn't been able to say on the phone, on the kitchen floor, and all the silence that had followed. She wrote it by hand, which she hadn't done since school. She wrote 3 pages. Then she folded them, put them in an envelope, sealed it, and put it in the drawer of her bedside table. She thought that was the end of it. Broken heart emotional note. Pause after she thought that was the end of it. Let the listener anticipate. Then wait 2 full seconds before continuing. Chapter 7, The Last Letter. On a Tuesday in March, 6 months and 4 days after their last phone call, an envelope arrived at Sophia's flat. She recognized the handwriting before she even picked it up. She sat at her kitchen table for 20 minutes before opening it. She made coffee. She drank half of it. She looked out the window at the gray Edinburgh morning. Then she opened the letter. It said, Sophia, Claire and I are separating. Not because of you, or not only because of you. Because the truth, once it's out, changes everything, and we were both brave enough to look at what we actually had. I'm not writing because I want something from you. I don't expect anything. I'm writing because I owe you honesty. You gave me that much, and I never gave it back properly. I think about our conversations every day. Not with regret. With something I don't have a word for yet. If you ever want coffee, the kind where we don't pretend to be less than we are, you know where I am. James. Sophia read the letter twice. Then she put it on the kitchen table and sat back and looked at the ceiling. She thought about all the choices that had led to this moment. Her choice to call him. His choice to be honest. Claire's choice to believe the truth when it came. All the small moments, the November walk, the bookshop evenings, the phone call on the kitchen floor, each one a door, and each door only opening because someone had chosen to walk through it. She picked up the letter again. She read the last line. You know where I am. Long pause, 4 seconds. Chapter 8, What She Did. Sophia went to her bedside drawer. She took out the envelope she had never sent, the one she had written in February, the 3 pages she thought would never leave her flat. She put his letter and her letter side by side on the kitchen table. 2 people who had spent a year not saying the right things to each other, finally saying them. Too late, perhaps. Or perhaps exactly on time. Time has a different shape when you stop pretending you can control it. She picked up her phone. She found his number, still saved, always saved. She typed 1 line. I still make good coffee. She pressed send. Outside, Edinburgh was still gray. But the light was changing, the way it does in March, when the city remembers it's allowed to be warm again. Sophia looked out the window and felt, for the first time in 6 months, that the empty space inside her was not empty at all. It was just waiting. Key vocabulary, B1, B2. All expressions used in context throughout the story. Listen again and notice them. Longing. A strong feeling of wanting what you cannot have. There was a longing in his eyes she recognized at once. Complicated. Difficult, involving many conflicting parts. Their relationship was complicated from the start. Forbidden. Not allowed, something you cannot have. The feeling was forbidden, but it was real. Boundaries. Limits that protect a relationship or situation. They had set boundaries, but both were already crossing them. To suppress. To stop yourself from showing a feeling. She tried to suppress her emotions, but they grew stronger. Inevitable. Certain to happen, impossible to avoid. Looking back, it all felt inevitable. Betrayal. Breaking someone's trust, being disloyal. The betrayal changed how she saw everything. To confront. To face a difficult situation or person directly. She had to confront the truth about herself. Devastated. Deeply shocked and overwhelmed by sadness. He looked devastated when he understood the damage done. Resonance, noun. A quality of evoking deep feeling or meaning. What he felt for her had a resonance he couldn't explain. To owe, verb. To have an obligation to give someone something. I owe you honesty, you gave me that much. Separation, noun. The act of ending a romantic relationship or marriage. Their separation was painful, but necessary and honest.